Go ahead, mate.
Hey, Dr. Jubb, how are you doing?
I'm really good, Rick. Yeah, great to join in with you during your cleanse. I'm so glad people are forming circles and getting their work out and getting this work out. That really is a great work, which is all about cell rejuvenation. Yeah, anyway. What's the question you have, mate?
Um, for cellular rejuvenation, is there a specific method you'd recommend people, or is it pretty flexible?
Oh, okay. So, well, for people that are beginning, that are tuned in, and this is something new. It's a method, first of all, making sure that you have energy, which is a adenosine triphosphate molecule, which is energy needed to actually pump energy across the membrane. Good. Okay. Well, I designed this program in 1978 and onward, and I really haven't modified it ever since. I could say probable that it is that I will be the first person to truly be educating people about gallbladder flushing and everything long before anybody ever did anything. I had a clinic that was in New York a long time before any books were written, and people were doing gallbladder flushes, which wasn't mentioned in any of these people's books. That was right there, even coming into the city and coming into the clinic and things and getting things, and never ever mentioned anything about the where they got all their information from. Some people who wrote books a little bit about the gallbladder flush. And what I saw back then a long time ago was that there was a lot of bilirubin in people's blood, yes, and so that's a pigment from substances not really being broken down properly, and so that was really not causing proper salts to be in the blood, you know what I mean? And so that was one thing. The other thing that I saw was that every single person who was consuming the molecule of death had all that accumulated in their blood and also in their DNA. And so it was really about a program that could help people clean up their DNA, you see? Yeah?
Wow, that's amazing. That's really deep cleaning.
If you start to clean a stream, logically, where do you go?
I go to the top.
You go upstream, of course. Good job. And you work your way down. That's logical, because if you start down the bottom, you're not going to really get anywhere, are you? No, you're not. Okay. So most people really have a lot of protein debris. You know, they're eating way too much protein. And then also having been consumed as a molecule of death, of course, which accumulates, which is then glyconeurogenic acid. Long before, of course, the genome project was complete, of course, it could be easily determined many years before that there was a construct that was valid that showed that there was nothing in our body that could actually consume an animal.
So what was that, in the 80s they did that? They finished that project?
No, that's sort of more recent, but it does prove that we have nothing in our bodies that could manage anything that would be like a prion molecule, which is definite, no question about it, a molecule like a protein, which is really small and has not really got any DNA in it at all, and it's even before RNA, basically, because it's like ribose. And so those are molecules which people consuming as a surfactant, and that's what I saw. You see, I saw that they've accumulated in all cells. If you learn more a bit about this work, then you're going to learn a little bit more about what this is. I recommend that actually people would read a little bit more if that's something interesting, you know what I mean? Yeah. So what else? What might some questions be, mate? Yeah.
On the topic of cellular rejuvenation, is that, or are we open to any question?
I wouldn't want to limit anything per se, because somebody really could be tuning in because they'd like to actually heal their body more, you know, and that's great. And then the audience and people who your viewers are might be broad in their own thinking. Yes, go ahead.
I'm interested in the process in which, like the fizzy shots, the anode, cathode, the baking soda and lemon juice combining, like how does that feed the ATP directly into the mitochondria?
Okay, so you're talking about a lemon bicarb shot? Lemon bicarb shots?
Yeah, lemon bicarb shots. I really
okay. And are you talking about the program that people could follow and they could learn about this and they could have read up about the lemon bicarb shots?
Yeah.
We're talking about actually something which has been recommended by me, and maybe you're not going to find that anywhere else.
Oh, really?
Oh, well, I don't know that anything that you're doing could be something that you could find somewhere else, you see? That's the question. If somebody does know that they must get rid of the stone out of their liver and pancreas area and, the mesentery area of the diaphragm and all the organs that support digestion and things, you need to be functioning properly. And that's upstream of everything else. It's upstream of your heart and brain and anything else. It's so high up in the mountain, and it needs attention, you see. Yeah. What questions might there be, mate? Yeah.
With
the lemon bicarb shot, yes, okay. So, well, one thing is, of course, you do know that most people's blood is way more alkaline than it should be, correct? Yes, you do.
Right.
Okay.
The tissues get acid.
And
correct?
that the tissue is way more acidic than it should be. Isn't that correct? Yes, it is. Okay. So then how would you shift that? You'd have to shift it, wouldn't you? Because you'd need a certain amount of acid relative to be in the blood, or self-positive to carry anything north negative, wouldn't you? And so that's the thing, isn't it? Connective tissue can only heal really because you've got proper parts of hydrogen, and those enzymes that you're using must have a proper parts of hydrogen, and they need to be relatively high if you're going to be healing anything that's connective tissue. And most people really have a connective tissue disease, don't they? Right? So don't be anti-immunity. You know what I mean? Don't be anti-missiles, you know what I mean, as a protective system, because that's not going to work. You know what I mean? When your money's being stolen, yeah?
Yeah.
So it's like a currency in your own bank where you are. You can be received of this because you can clear away the things that don't work, right? Good. And that's what this is about, isn't it? Yes, it is. Yeah. So people could read more about Jubb cell rejuvenation. That'd be really good. And you'd note that certain proteins should be kept out of the body. Why? Well, because they don't break down, do they? No, they don't. And can you support a toxin? No. No, you can't. Can you defend a toxin? No. No, you can't. Could water be a toxin? Yes, it could be. How much? 7 liters? That's toxic. Okay? Yeah? Yeah, so an amount of something could be toxic, couldn't it? Yes?
Oh, so
it could be innocuous if it were natural, but if it were not natural, there's no way that you could ever support it. Could you? No, you couldn't. So let's not be anti-immunity. Let's not be anti-natural health. You understand? Don't interfere with that, all right? So if you don't, you're actually supporting nature. Good, because then you're going to be starting to do these sorts of things to help yourself where you are, aren't you? Because you're going to be living a longer life, yeah? Right? Good? Yeah, right. And does that save money? Yes, it does. In a positive inductive world, you're the value where you are, not some shiny bone stuff which you can't purchase any food.
Oh, it's like that old Native American saying.
What comes into you and around you is all your sense of everything is to be a part of that. And, of course, most people aren't a part of something which are not into that social compact whatsoever. They're outside of it. But if they've been drafted into it to perform, which many people have, they might actually consider having greater choice where they are, you know, and thinking, have you got room inside? And Are you making room more inside yourself, basically? Yes. So then you could be more spiritual, couldn't you? Because then energy would be available for no longer having to be for healing up, right? And no longer having to be available for energy consumption from digestiveness, all things, right? And so then suddenly energy becomes more available for spirituality. Yes, you see? So, there's a currency, that's what I'm saying, in your body, and that currency is something which is an exchange in yourself, and everybody knows that no matter what you eat, it will not reduce calcium levels. But what does reduce calcium levels? You know what? Good advice, yeah. That's compassionate. Yes, because when anybody's ever kind of listened to the news, I listen to it, it's up and down, up and down. Oh my God, it's just like to do with the news. And it's not the northeast, west, and south. No, it's not. Sorry, I wish it was, but it's not. It's amusement, but it's not good amusement because it's deceitful.
So you talk about sovereignty and this internal currency that we have. That's the energy we have within our body and throughout the electrical system, like auric.
Yeah, no, I don't use any words like that, actually. You'd hear me use words like, hey, do you know what common sense is? Yes? Because common sense is sovereign, mate, over stuff that's idiotic, okay? So when you're using the word right, you're using the word and you're just using the word, and it means what? Common sense. You know? Yeah? So you cannot be common sense, no. You can act with common sense, yes, and we all can act with common sense, and we should. And should that not be the most godlike thing that you can do? Of course it is. It's of your own international relation that you give your cells a rest. You know what I mean? So when did your cells get a rest?
During sleep?
Yeah, but not really, because there was digestion going on. So when did they actually get a rest? In the morning. That's right, after defecation, and then when next you had to eat something. And this, whatever time frame that was the rest that your body was given. Maybe it wasn't rest enough. About giving your body a rest, like after you've defecated, and then wait for a long while, and then later on in the day, maybe you eat something. So you've rested your whole body during this time, and you have. Because why? Because digestion costs a fortune where anyone is, okay? Way more than you've ever thought, generally, all right? And most people are eating overeaters, overeating excessive amounts of protein, which triggers yeast, okay? Way over the top, all right? So you need enzymes to break things down, and the whole food vitamin mineral complexes which help break things down. And when somebody has a high calcium, when they stop or don't want, can't, should, try, but must only for 1 year, and they learn how to frame things positively, and then they slip those words back in so they're used really properly, like try not to have success with this. Now that's a proper use of some embedded command where you are or anybody else is. And so people should be learning a little bit more about the embedded commands, and certainly what's a complex equivalent and which is not equal to something else. So certainly like healing is the instruction that you're following, that you're carrying out every day that's assisting you. And if somebody said that's not true healing therapeutic, you don't want to ask them, do they know what that is? Yeah, so anyway. What questions might you have, mate? Yeah.
So, can you like with sugar and a lot of people I hear the question come around like, do I eat fruit? Should I avoid sugar? And where can we dip our toes into this understanding? Yes,
okay. Well, first it's true, like you're pointing out, that one person that can't ask a question per se. 10 wise people could never answer that, but They are, because they can hear and feel first the prejudice that exists, that is presupposed about sugar, as you said. And sugar apparently is an equivalent to hydrogen, which it is. Okay, well, what somebody says is hydrogen an issue. No, it's not. But yes, it is. It sure is. Why? Well, because no one gets enough general, it is, of anything of that such nature in food in relation to which they should, right? So, of course, as you're pointing out, mother's milk is primarily hydrogen, as you're pointing out. And then how important is hydrogen? Hydrogen is very important. Can you make yeast from hydrogen? No, you can't. Sorry, you don't have the necessary ingredient. What do you have to have the necessary ingredient? The necessary ingredient is nitrogen. Okay? Nitrogen excess. Is that hydrogen? No. Okay? All right. So now we'll change the picture around. Look at everything. Got excessive amounts of nitrogen in it, and put the skull and crossbones straight away onto it. Now, does everything have to break down to hydrogen? Yes, it does. Okay. Sorry, but that is not a reason for all kinds of ridiculousness of health that's going on for people. All right? So you'd first have to note that someone who spoke, they have major issues their own self, and they have no idea how to deal with a hypochondriac. And why? Because you're on a slippery slope, aren't you, where you're asking a question which shows that you're biased. And you've got amazing bias. And what's that? Bias about sugar. Sugar? What's sugar? I have no idea, honest. You could keep saying that every way that you would like, and I'm sorry, I do not know what the hell you're talking about when you say sugar. But if you say hydrogen, I light up. I can understand what that is. Now, it could come from cane, it could come from food. Thank you so much. It could come from fats broken down, protein broken down, but it's got to come from somewhere. And how much do you need? Why is mother's milk got mostly hydrogen in it, or sugar, as you say? Or SHUGA, apparently, or SHOOGA, I guess, as you said, sugar or something. I mean, when you look at the word, you can see it's spelled sugar. Yeah, and what's sugar? I'm not sure. It's a bit of a made-up word, all right? Sorry, I'm not sure what anybody's talking about when they're talking about sugar, okay? But I do know about hydrogen, and I know there's natural forms of hydrogen, and most hydrogen should be bent to the right, not bent to the left, okay? So all sugar's got from, unnatural processedness could be bent, not in the proper manner, of course, and that's going to break down to a fatty acid, yes? And those are things which could be excessive, some in people's bodies and things. That's a sugar that also, sugar, that could not necessarily break things down, but it's called sweetener. I don't know. Yeah, they do call it now. They're getting that sugar from things that might relate to this, perhaps. But sugar in a natural sense, or sugar, as it used to be connected to cane, is fine. Nothing is wrong with that whatsoever. There's a certain amount of disaccharide that is missing in the vast majority of food today. How much? About 40 to 50% that ordinarily would have been there before 1960. Why? Why? Because you're coming into a Maunder minimum. Yes, you are. You're coming into a Maunder minimum. And what happens when that occurs? Crops fail. Right? Yes, they do.
Is that, what's this minimum you said? What is it?
The Maunder minimum.
How does that occur?
Well, you've read my work and you know that I've been teaching you that you and I are all coming into an ice age, a mini ice age. Yes? Of course you know that, okay? But newcomers could be aware of this at least. So that for those things that one should learn really about healing up the endothelial cells that cover the lining passages of your cells and things, and also know how the intestinal tract can be kept in really good stead so that the body functions properly, you see. And it could be understanding really what natural cleansing is and things like that, and be perfectly aware that modern medicine is the art of keeping people amused while nature takes its course. Yeah? So there you go. Maybe one more question, mate, and then we could wrap it up.
Okay. How do you like the effect of our speech on our physical body, our nervous system? Does this play a role in healing?
Yeah, well, here everyone heard, of course, that the major way to reduce the amount of calcium that you have in your blood is by stopping or framing things adversively for 1 year. Because it doesn't let you get into your frontal cortex. And so epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, adrenocorticotropic hormone, adrenochrome, hey man, that's a lot. Guess what? Can you survive like that? No, you can't. And that's psychosomatic, isn't it? Yes, it is. So, can anybody change the calcium levels? Yes, they can, miraculously, by realizing that you've got unnecessary stress that's been going on and anxiety, and turn it off. Sorry. Because be stoic to the events and things, and then be looking at how you're judging or sensing the event. And that's where you need to be more, where you are, than everybody else. Yeah?
So that allows us to be present.
Be eye aware, learn about this. And if you've never spoken that to anyone, you've never inducted anyone into what this is about, because you never read anything about it, or you don't know this is a state that's above your wakeful state where you've been walking around thinking that you're woken when you're not woken. You see, you'd have to go awake and then you're woken for a small moment. But why don't you consider to be woken and then live this outward live meditation ongoing and not stop? Let it be unbroken. Let it be about a meditation of your learnedness and go beyond your own body cleansing. You know what I mean? But learn about it, because there's issues that's going on in the world, and you've got to go beyond a narrow point of view where you are. That's all. Yeah? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you do with people to broaden their minds, truly. And I think that's really great what you're doing, mate.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. What other questions? Anything else, mate? And then if this is enjoyed and you can see that it is, maybe we can do another interview too. Yeah, anyway. So what's one more question to wrap things up, because I've got to get going with things a bit.
This inductive process, this is about eye awareness. That's spiritual.
Oh, yes. Okay, so you could say that receptivity to information is by what's implied and implicit versus explicit, which is bullying everyone. Yes? Mm. And no one needs to do that. If you stay with what's implied and implicit, and you learn implied and implicit languaging technique, you could be applying things more inside that's congruent, that actually is connected to everybody, versus polarizing everyone. Yes? And so somebody could learn how to be integrated more and congruent and associated in life, and they could apply their senses this way, and they'd be helping other people. Otherwise, they're not. Yeah? Somebody can be in an inducted state, and a moment of time has to pass by, so somebody can feel what that inductedness is, but someone could take them back to be by saying that something has existed where it didn't, or it shouldn't, or it wasn't, and that their dream never was changed by your doing anything around them. So that's evident of someone narcissistic. most people are dealing with narcissists because they're people who won't change any view from anything said whatsoever, and they'll never ever listened. You see? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so where you cultivate a gap in your own cloud bank, what does that mean? It means that you're empty listening. And where someone jumps out fast, that's evident of someone who's really got massive amounts of internal dialogue and cannot have heard anything you or anyone else said. Yes? Mm. So nobody would say that the 36th rule is don't outshine the master, all right? Stop, okay? Yeah? You look at and see where the master of self is, and then you learn things, but don't outshine the master. That's rule 36, because there's 35 other rules which all come before, which is all about this one rule. And it means that pay attention. If somebody's got information around you, give them some honouredness, all right? And don't trash them where you are, where you can see that going on often. Right? Yeah?
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for people to be able to get a little information from me where you are, that you could be touching people through the mediums where you are, yes? And this is not on the net, okay? Yeah, what I'm saying? And I'm not on the net, yes? So that'd be good for people to know that, wouldn't it? Yes, it is. So if you get information maybe that somebody gave you that, how good is that, right? And that's the grapevine, isn't it? Yes? Because you're going to say that you're going to actually connect with people over the net. I wonder about that. But people could hear what this is, couldn't they? Yes? And they could spread the word, and that really is the word, and that's the real true grapevine. And that's you participating in the data where you are in your own listening. Yes? And nobody cares for anything where no consideration is being given. And personally, most people are offended when anything is not given that where consideration is. And where's the consideration given to what natural means is to cleanse? Yeah? Okay. So I think we should get on with everything, shouldn't we? Yes? But we could, of course, be aware that it's you who is real, isn't it? Yes, it is. And that's not some dead fictional spot somewhere, is it? No. Can a rabbit take action? Can a stone take action? No, they can't. So it's only you who is living can. Yes? So stop all running after and having something dead above your head and thinking that you volunteer to that. That's wrong. If you've got discretion where you are, as anybody who has official discretion, good. You better know you have a claim. And you better be able to understand that. Because if you don't, did you do due diligence where you were collecting information? Maybe not. Especially if it came from some monopolization. Yes? Anyway, I appreciate the things you're doing, Rick. Yeah? So give us a call as you could do something with this really good. And as you feel drawn to, it's possible for us to do it a little bit more. All right?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, mate. Love you, mate.
Love you, Dr. Jubb.
Love for everybody connecting in with you.
All right. Look forward to our next talk.